Douglas PUD owns and operates Wells Dam, which is located just north of Lake Chelan on the Columbia River. Wells Dam is part of the Wells Hydroelectric Project, which includes the Wells Reservoir, a large body of water that stretches from Wells Dam to Chief Joseph Dam near Bridgeport, Washington. The project area is roughly 35 miles long on the Columbia River and includes two short sections of major tributaries, the Okanagan and Methow Rivers. Douglas's stewardship of the reservoir includes the successful management, protection, and mitigation of various salmon and resident fish species. During 2012, Douglas PUD was granted a new 40-year license to operate Wells Dam. This new license offers Douglas PUD new opportunities to build on our stewardship and resource successes, including the implementation of the new white sturgeon management plan designed to protect and enhance the white sturgeon population in the Wells Reservoir. Douglas PUD is working closely with federal, state, and tribal agencies to implement this new management plan. Danella Miller is the Yakima Nation's fisheries lead biologist for their sturgeon program.
The white sturgeon is the largest freshwater fish in North America. These large fish live for many decades and can grow beyond 10 feet in length. The female will reach her reproductive age around 25 years and by then will often be over 6 feet long. Unlike salmon that spawn only once and die, the white sturgeon will spawn numerous times during their life cycle.
White sturgeon have been documented spawning in the reservoirs of the upper and middle Columbia River. However, the populations are not increasing as would be expected. To mitigate for this limited population, Douglas PUD and agency partners are using a hatchery program to raise and release up to 5,000 yearling white sturgeon into the Wells Reservoir annually for 4 years. Andrew Gingrich is Douglas PUD's biologist overseeing the sturgeon program.
In order to supplement the existing population of white sturgeon in the Wells project, Douglas PUD is raising these fish to an age and size that is expected to increase their survival once released into the Columbia River. Although female sturgeon can produce over 1 million eggs during spawning, the eggs that are successfully fertilized have little chance of survival in the early part of their life cycle, which biologists often refer to as recruitment failure. By raising these fish to a larger and more defensible size, fish managers expect to give the hatchery-raised sturgeon a better chance of reaching an age to reproduce on their own. With the goal of producing a large population of white sturgeon in the Wells project, it is valuable to have a genetically diverse mixture of fish. Resource agencies working collaboratively with Douglas PUD have elected to use two methods of acquiring the sturgeon that will be used in our white sturgeon management plan. A broodstock spawning program that is led by the Yakima Nation's fisheries staff, and an in-river larvae collection program that is led by the Colville tribes. The Yakimas capture adult sturgeon that are then artificially spawned, much like standard hatchery spawning operations.
Today we're going to be spawning sturgeon. We're holding the fish in 10-foot circular tanks, and what we have to do is draw the water down in the tank so that we could work with the fish, and we put her on her back, and we put a hose into her mouth so she can continue to breathe while she's in the stretcher, and then we're able to massage the eggs out of her belly. After we pulled the eggs out of the female, we put it into a bowl, and then that's when we did the fertilization process. So we add milk from the males into eggs with the females, and so that we could raise their offspring for release back into the Columbia. And all of the fish that are spawned today will be returned back to their place of capture live into the Columbia within the next couple days.
The Colville operation consists of using drift nets to capture larval sturgeon. This process can provide sturgeon from many natural spawning events that have taken place in the river only weeks before.
We are on the upper Columbia River at a place called China Bend, just downstream from the Little Dalles, attempting to collect larval sturgeon. It seems from our previous work that the sturgeon hatchlings drift downstream a short way and hide above this point. They stay there for about 10 days and then they re-emerge as early larvae to start feeding. And it's the stage we're looking for Well, we're using drift plankton nets. The mesh is about 1/16 of an inch, and we drop these nets to the bottom, and we let them fish, pull them back up, sort through the catch, and collect the larvae. We're just sorting through the debris. I mean, we're taking off the big stuff first, and we'll be picking out fish as we go. Did you find them? Then we place them into these coolers, and these will be the vessels we transport them into the hatchery. So as you can see.
The fertilized eggs and the in-river larvae are brought back to the Wells hatchery, where the eggs are incubated and the larvae are raised in Douglas's new sturgeon rearing facility. In the hatchery, feeding rates, water temperatures, and fish densities are carefully controlled to provide a stress-free and healthy environment for growing and developing sturgeon. Hatchery staff carefully monitor fish condition for 10 to 12 months prior to release. Over that time, the sturgeon grow to approximately 10 to 14 inches. After several months in the hatchery, the fish have developed rows of scutes. These are part of the fish's natural defense system, which will help limit the amount of predators that the sturgeon have to cope with in the wild. A monitoring and evaluation component of the sturgeon program will begin prior to releasing the fish. Pit tags and scoop marks that are given to the fish will allow for the monitoring of individual growth, survival, and habitat use after their release. Once released, Douglas PUD biologists will try and recapture the fish over the course of many years in order to get important information on sturgeon movements, survival, habitat use, and whether fish remain in the Wells project.
Together with agency partners, Douglas PUD's implementation of the White Sturgeon Management Plan will build on the district's long history of protecting and enhancing the fish populations living in or using the Wells project.